Now tonight, we're talking about the topic of guns in America, and much like the rest of the country, this panel is split. I'm joined by two experts, gun education advocate and the founder of Ready Up Incorporated, Mr. Carlos Ellis. Make some noise for Mr. Carlos Ellis. And a journalist who has extensively covered gun violence and policy in America. Please welcome Alex Yablon. Make some noise for Alex. Let's get right to it. Alex, why are guns such a divisive issue in this country?
I think guns are so divisive because they're at the core of what we think of what it means to be an American, and we don't agree about who gets to be an American. Mm-hmm. You know, the American dream is, I think, you can get a big house, a lot of money, and shoot someone and get away with it.
If you're white.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly, if you're white. So black people can't shoot someone and get away with it. Women can't shoot their abusers and get away with it. Mm-hmm. But white people can. And, you know, this is not surprisingly very controversial, just like everything about who counts as an American is controversial.
Tying into what he said, it's been a misconception or basically how we've been portrayed, how black people have been portrayed owning guns from the media, from music, from TV. You know, black guy with a gun is probably the second scariest thing in America. First thing would be a black guy with a book. That's a whole nother show. Mm-hmm. But it's just like he said, it's been exclusively for white people, basically. The Second Amendment has been intended for white people. We try to say that there's only been certain legislation about guns, but there's been gun laws, restrictive gun laws since colonial times. The first gun laws were you were not allowed to trade guns with or sell guns to Catholics, indentured servants, which would have been the Irish, the slaves.
So anybody who would revolt, basically.
And the American Indians or the Native Americans. That was the first, and that was in colonial times.
Okay. Why does that scare people so much when we talk about, you know, people of color owning guns? Like I was on MSNBC once and this happened. Look.
I would also tell all my brothers and sisters out there to go buy yourself a legal firearm and learn how to use it so you can protect yourself and your family. I am 2A all day, and I think when you're a black person in America, owning a legal firearm is a form of self-care. So that's my thoughts on that. I wish that brother had a gun on him while he was jogging so he could have defended himself.
While I can understand the emotions behind what you said about what you wish people would do within the black community, I'm sure you also understand that the prospect of everybody going out there and using guns to make their points or defend themselves or attack, that may not turn out well in the big picture.
Well, that's not what I said. I didn't say people should use their guns and go out there and attack. I said people should own legal firearms so they can defend themselves against these kind of attacks.
Now, Alex, was I tripping in that clip? Was I tripping? Was I tripping in that clip?
I don't think you're tripping, but I think you kind of, I think you're kind of arguing on the gun rights movement's terms. They say people need to own guns because they need to defend themselves. But the fact is there's very little evidence that people actually defend themselves with guns. And so, you know, we need to talk more about what actually happens when people have this many guns in America. What mostly happens is a ton of suicide and accidental shootings and hundreds of thousands of lost guns every year. So I think the gun rights movement has fostered this idea over decades that owning a gun is what makes you safe. And
shit, it don't make you less safe.
I think it does. It very clearly does. It very clearly increases the risk that if you have
Alex, if somebody jump on your ass right now, you.
Yeah?
Do you know some martial arts we don't know about?
No.
So how you gonna protect yourself?
If somebody jumps on my ass and I take out a gun, I'm sorry, if they jump on my ass, that's it, I'm done.
That's not acceptable. Like, that's acceptable to you?
No, that's not acceptable to me. But I also know that the likelihood, for better or for worse.
You're just gonna give up the ass?
No. The likelihood that anyone is going to jump on my ass is very low.
Okay.
It doesn't, like, you know, and I've had people try to mug me, and it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. And me pulling out a gun.
Until it is.
Until it is.
Until they shoot you.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Then what?
Then what? But what happens when someone tries to mug you is they say, give me your wallet, give me your phone. And then, you know.
That was your experience with me.
That was my experience. And then I said, I'm on my way to the gym. I only have my keys on me. And then
What
they
neighborhood
said,
was this, Alex?
Bed-Stuy.
Bed-Stuy, wow.
Yeah.
Carlos, what do you think about what Alex just said? Huh? Was I tripping in that clip when I said what I said?
Definitely not tripping
Okay.
at all. Black people need to fully exercise their Second Amendment rights. With that, you should not expect to be protected by those rights at the same time. You won't be, you do what Rittenhouse did, you'll go to prison. They want to tout the one example of the guy that got off from defending himself, but there's hundreds of examples where it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So you should absolutely arm yourself, but more importantly, know the laws of your state, educate yourself, know the laws, follow those laws, and as far as legislating guns and legislating evil, because that's basically what it is, you can't legislate that.
No.
You can't legislate a person's choice. You cannot.
I mean,
And that's the root of it. We're dealing with mental health here. You wanna, everybody wants to blame the tool. A guy just perfect example.
Is it always mental health, though?
But it
in
is.
the case of Ahmaud Arbery?
I have to stop.
And that's privilege.
Okay.
Ahmaud Arbery is privilege.
Okay.
They taped themselves. So they felt that was their right to do. Now that says a lot. Police aren't around, you feel like it's your right to be the police. Now imagine you doing that. Where are you going?
Yeah, but I want to defend myself against, those type of thugs. that did that to
Absolutely.
Ahmaud
But I'm
Arbery.
saying, you chase down an Ahmaud Arbery in your neighborhood. You chase down a white Ahmaud Arbery in your neighborhood.
But what if Ahmaud has a gun and he defended himself against that attack?
I would have been all for that.
Okay.
I would have been all for him.
What about you,
carrying
Alex?
the
Would
gun.
you have been for that?
I think that what would have happened is he still would have been killed and his killers would have been acquitted. Because we saw that happen with Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse shows up to this protest. He's got a gun. Someone else who's trying to defend the protesters with a gun takes out a gun, tries to get Kyle Rittenhouse to go away. That's the justification that Kyle Rittenhouse needs to get acquitted for killing 3 people.
Okay, well, to that point, the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict did set a precedent about claiming self-defense, right, as a perceived threat. But yes, I'd be feeling threatened by some of these white people. So the defense only applies to white people? That's what you're telling me?
I'm saying that the problem isn't going to be solved by more people carrying guns. It's going to be solved by convincing white people that it's not okay to act like a vigilante.
That shit ain't happening, Alex.
That's a part of it.
Come on.
That's a part of it.
fuck?
But let's deal with the real issues. You want to blame the tool like the recent school shooting. You want to blame the gun and his access to it, but we don't want to talk about what makes you want to go and kill your classmates.
I mean, I have to disagree with you there. You really can blame the tool. Like,
You cannot.
I
if
think-
the
I think it's-
father,
I think it's both.
No one is pushing for banning cars. A guy just ran down a whole Thanksgiving parade, but no one's pushing for banning cars.
I mean, there
Why?
actually is a
Because-
pretty big movement to stop traffic violence in America. And,
Traffic violence.
What?
That's not what I'm talking about.
I mean, de Blasio has a
no
plan
one,
called Vision Zero
literally
to
no
say,
one
hey, you
is
shouldn't.
pushing for banning cars.
I've never heard
Why
that in
is
my
that?
life. How'd you get
Because-
here today?
How did I get here today?
Yeah.
I got a car.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because cars are prevalent. There are 393 million guns in America. Almost 400 million guns in America. So getting rid of the guns is not an option.
Can we discuss Philando Castile and what happened to him? He knew the law.
You don't even
Yeah,
know that.
totally. Philando Castile is the absolute picture of a law-abiding gun owner, right? He did exactly what you're supposed to do. If you get pulled over and you have a gun in your car and you have a right to have, if you have a right to have that gun. I think that, you have to ask, like, living in America, way that policing works, the way that the law works, does it actually make you safer? Does it give white vigilantes and police license to shoot you? Mm-hmm. And it's not right that that's how it works in America. But the problem there is the law and the political power.
So if your solution is convincing white people basically, not to be racist towards us, how long is that going to take to get that implemented?
I don't think it's convincing white people not to be racist. Mm-hmm. It's to amass political power and change laws.
Okay.
Now, I'm definitely on that board. I'm definitely on board with that. And like I said, I am a gun rights advocate, but I'm not a 2A fanatic. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So a common saying amongst our community is we train for the day that we hope never comes.
Right.
So I do not want to ever take a life. Though I'm fully prepared and trained to, I never want that day to come. Go back to Rittenhouse, he got exactly what he wanted. He sought that out. Crossed state lines, got a gun illegally. He was a willing combatant. He was not a victim.
Totally.
Is it important for the black community to rethink our relationship with guns?
We have to.
Okay.
Because, like I just said earlier, a black man with a gun is the scariest thing in America. Mm-hmm. Not only to white America, but to you too. Mm-hmm. When you picture a black man with a gun, do you picture him as a hero? Or do you picture him sticking you up?
He's trying to mug me.
Thank you. And why is that? Because that is what we've been conditioned to see. TV, movie, radio, rap music. That's how just like they've been conditioned to see us, we've been conditioned to see ourselves that way. So we have to change that. Starts with education. We have to arm ourselves. Second Amendment is available to us, use it. Arm yourself, get trained. Training is the most important key. Education. And it's cultural. I was talking to your producer. Mm-hmm. She never saw anybody with a gun other than cops and criminals.
Wow.
Me coming up in rural, basically hour outside of Detroit, everybody had a gun. Everybody had a gun in their closet, hunting rifle, shotgun, .22. None of us ever went to school.
Same.
Killed
South Carolina.
Exactly. Yeah. We didn't go to school and kill everybody. Never even thought about that. Mm-hmm. So what about society that makes people want to do this? You can't blame the tool.
But you can take away the tool from the person you
can't.
know.
So you're going to take away the car?
From the person who drunk drives?
No, not from the person who drunk drives.
From the person who speeds all the time? Yeah, you do take the car away.
You're not doing it specifically, though. Gun laws are going to be a blanket. So they're going to cover everybody, even the law-abiding citizen.
I have to disagree with you there.
I understand your disagreement.
There are targeted laws that you can pass that apply only to people with histories of violence or making threats. They're called red flag laws.
The key word is law.
Yeah.
And that's for people who follow the law.
But
these people that are killing people don't follow the law. Why is that so hard for people to understand?
But what I am
You can't legislate people. Your legislation will affect me, not the criminal.
Well,
you understand
that's a good point.
Do you get that part?
Because they're going to find illegal guns regardless. Kyle Rittenhouse is going to get a gun. He got his gun illegally. They're going to get illegal guns. If he don't get a gun, he's going to get a car. If he don't get a car, he's going to get a bomb. If you don't get a bomb, he'll set a fire.
There's an Onion article that says if you ban guns, they'll just invent an enormous knife-throwing machine. There's nothing better than a gun for killing people.
I don't realize about that, and that's not true. You just saw a guy run down a Thanksgiving Day parade.
Yeah.
And there was no threat to him. He could have backed up, killed everybody.
But I mean,
there's no push to ban cars, though.
I'm gonna tell you something, Alex. The way you're shaking right now, you might need a gun. If you had a gun right now, you might stand up to Carlos' argument a little bit better.
There's no push to ban cars. We cannot concentrate on the tool without concentrating on what makes them want to do this. See, and that's America. We want to put the Band-Aid on. We don't want to face the facts.
Let Alex get in on this.
Mental health.
But I just got to say, first of all, mental illness as a scapegoat for gun violence. There's no basis for that.
No scapegoat. It's a
No.
real thing.
No. It's not true.
Yes.
I'm telling you, I reported on this before.
I don't care about your reporting. I live in this world, the same world that you do.
But I'm-
So you
and
think
I see it.
You think somebody who may be going through something, right, and they want to project pain on people, you don't think that if there's a gun there, they'll, pick up that gun and hurt people?
The most likely thing is that they're going to hurt themselves. Mental illness simply is not a significant risk factor
Oh my God.
for committing acts of violence. Committing acts of violence.
I don't know if I agree with that.
At all.
I'm going to tell you.
I
you
totally
wanna-
disagree.
It's just a fact. We ban people from owning guns on the basis of their immigration status, on the basis of if they use drugs, and if they've ever been admitted to a mental health facility.
Also, if they've
And-
committed a felony. Also, if they've committed domestic violence. Like, tell it all.
But the
Don't
vast-
just tell the stuff that
but the
goes to
vast
your
ma-
argument. Tell it all.
Okay, but we don't ban people on the basis of committing misdemeanor acts of violence. Misdemeanor assault will not ban you from getting a gun in most states.
True.
That's the biggest sign that you're going to commit an act of violence is previous acts of violence.
I would need to see proof of data of that.
Well, think about it. Like
I
someone
would
who
need to see
shoots their
proof of
spouse.
data of that, 'cause that
Someone
sounds
who
like
shoots
an
their
opinion.
spouse
That's an
may
opinion.
begin
That's an
by
opinion.
hitting their
But what about these
This
mass
is
shooters,
not
right?
an
Like
opinion.
there was,
I would need to see proof of data.
What about the school shootings? There was just a school shooting, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was probably that kid's first time committing an act of violence in that way.
That's not true. This kid had so many red flags.
But he never shot up a school.
He was making threats. He was caught by teachers making threats. That very morning, he was brought to his principal's office with his parents because he was scaring teachers. But Michigan does not have what's called a red flag law, which
No,
is
it
that if
doesn't.
someone makes a threat, you file basically a restraining order. This person doesn't go to jail, but you say, hey, you're acting kind of crazy. We're going to take the gun out of your house so you don't do something crazy. Come back in a few months, talk to a judge. If you've cooled out, you can get your gun back. If you haven't, you don't get your gun back.
Wasn't his gun.
It was his parents' gun. That's true. They didn't keep it from him. Even though teachers had told him,
There may be evidence that the parents might have given him the gun. I'm from Michigan.
yeah,
They're not releasing whether or not he was given the gun or whether he took the gun.
So you're saying that was a birthday present?
Maybe. But it goes back to irresponsible gun ownership, just like irresponsible car ownership. But we're not banning cars.
I mean, do you think that we should let people who drive drunk or speed or
Absolutely
drive
not.
recklessly keep driving?
Absolutely not.
Listen,
We
before
should target those people. But the tool is not what we're targeting. You're talking about the people.
it's the people, yeah. But listen,
You're making my argument for me, bro.
I'm,
listen.
You are.
I'm telling you that the people don't get dangerous without the tool.
That is not
I
true.
don't believe that. I feel
That's
like they're gonna
absolutely
find
not
something.
true.
Oh, let's talk about the school shootings again. There was a school shooting, and the public opinion of gun control usually increases when stuff like that happens. Do you think more gun control will protect children in schools? Because other countries have done it. Would that work in America?
I mean, it depends what kind of gun control you're talking about. I mean, to some degree, I agree with you. Banning banning assault rifles, that's not really going to solve the problem because just as many school shootings are committed with handguns.
Handguns. Thank you.
So if you really want to stop it, you got to ban handguns too. But we're not going to do that because the vast majority of people who own handguns never do anything bad with it.
Just like the vast majority of people who own cars.
But the thing is that we use the fact that the vast majority of people don't do anything wrong with it to never do anything about the small number of people who actually
I mean, you
do.
can apply that to alcohol. You can apply that to drugs.
Yeah.
You can apply that to anything.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I agree. What I'm saying is there actually is stuff you can do about it. Like, you can pass these red flag laws. You can change the law so that a misdemeanor assault bars you from
What I'm
guns.
trying to get you to see is you pass these laws, they only apply to me, the law-abiding citizen.
But
Criminals are still going to be able to get guns
They're going
and
to
commit
do
these
what
crimes.
they do. You
And now we
cannot-
ain't got no protection
You
against
can't
them.
legislate evil. You just can't. You
But
cannot.
I'm telling you
Have
that
you ever had security, Alex, anywhere?
no,
Never.
no.
Wow. That's a white luxury I wish I had.
I mean, I'm a freelance journalist.
Yeah,
Can I
that's true.
afford security?
Okay, you got a point. Have you ever been in a building where there's security?
No, I just
Of
live.
course you have, and there have been armed security. When you call the police, they have guns. So would
Have
you,
I been in
would you
a
want the
building-
police to get rid of their guns?
Would I want the police to get rid of their guns? I mean, like, we've had situations like the Parkland shooting where you have armed guards.
Mm-hmm.
Did that stop the shooting?
No,
No.
but I'm sure it would have slowed it down.
We had a situation with, we all remember the Dallas Black Lives Matter protest in which someone brought a gun and went for the cops who were all armed and killed 6 of them. Did the fact that the cops were already there armed stop the
But
shooting?
didn't he die? Didn't he get shot down eventually?
But he didn't care. He wanted to die. He was, that's the, I'm sorry.
You
Go ahead,
helping
say
me
it.
out.
Speak it out.
What I'm saying is that you have to separate the dangerous people from the guns. You don't have to separate.
How though?
I mean, I'm telling
If I already want to die, if I want to commit a crime, I'm gonna find a way to find a gun.
And a law is not going to stop you.
Nothing
from
at
doing
all.
that.
I'm just telling you, like, is New York safer than New Orleans? Is New York City a safer city than New Orleans?
I don't know. What's that?
It
that doing
is
thing?
so much safer. New York went from being one of the most dangerous cities in the country 30 years ago to being the safest big city in the country.
I don't know about that right now at this present
It
moment.
is still true.
Yeah, I don't
What
know.
about, let's talk about
I don't
California.
know about that one, Dell.
What about California?
California also.
California has the most restrictive gun laws in the country. They are number 2 in gun deaths.
They're also
Over
the most.
3,000 gun deaths.
It's also
Arizona has some of the least restrictive gun laws in the country, and they're not even in the top 10 in deaths.
That's because California is the most populous state by a mile.
I get
it's
the
going to have
relation.
more of everything.
I get the relation. I get the relation, but they also have the most restrictive gun laws.
They also
So
have
gun-
a very low rate of gun crime for their population. It is pretty.
It's not very low.
You know what-
7.9 is the exact number.
You know what's interesting about
I
this
know my
conversation?
numbers.
What's interesting about this
sure.
conversation is, Carlos, you're speaking from a lot of real life experience.
Absolutely.
And Alex, you're speaking from a data experience. There's certain
Yeah.
things that Carlos or even me may have to go through or have been through that you've never experienced ever.
Totally.
So that's probably why our perspective on guns is a little bit different. But let's talk solutions, though. Is the solution simply a matter of getting guns off the streets?
I think that you have to separate particular dangerous people who are usually pretty obvious from guns. And that's not that hard to do, but we don't try.
So how do we do that?
Yeah, 'cause I don't believe shit you talking about right now. That don't even sound like
So,
I need.
take this
that
red
don't e-
flag law.
Okay.
Take this red flag law.
Okay.
Mass shooters, for instance, it's not usually a surprise when someone commits a mass shooting. So that person has probably made threats. They've probably committed other acts of violence. They've probably done things like hurt animals. They broadcast that they're going to do this.
Yes.
So if you have a thing like a red flag law, you could say, hey, you're making a lot of threats. I'm going to go to a judge and get a restraining order. Just like if someone threatens their spouse, you go to a judge and say, hey, I need a restraining order. This person has to be separated from this. You're not banning gun ownership.
So what if that person doesn't make threats? What if that person doesn't give a warning,
A red flag.
a red flag?
By the way, it's a crip out there. Like, that's what I be talking about. We got to shoot at the red flag every time,
Every day.
every day.
So what about those people?
But the thing is that, and I mean, like, I know I'm being the obnoxious nerd talking about
No.
data all the time, but the fact is that they do. They do send red flags. It's not that hard. Like in Parkland, the kid talked about how he wanted to commit acts of violence. There were constant visits with social workers and guidance counselors.
Okay, so you have literally 2 examples. What about the people that don't?
But I mean, in the case of, in the case of Columbine, for instance, these kids were known as, I don't want to go through like every.
So that's 3
Three
examples.
examples.
Okay, well, in the case of, say, the Sutherland Springs, Texas church shooting, that guy had a history of domestic violence.
What about the guy that sat in the sat in the South Carolina church, sat through service, and then killed everybody.
He was making constant threats. He was broadcasting his racist ideology on the internet. He had a whole website devoted to how he's a white supremacist. He was not hiding it.
So when I hear that, I say to myself, how do we defend ourselves against that, though?
So gun laws, so red flag laws are going to protect us against him?
Yeah, if you see that someone is making a threat, but they have not.
So let me put
arrest everybody on social media.
Exactly.
No, you
I
don't.
get threatened all the time.
That's the whole point. Also, you don't have to arrest anybody. You don't have to.
So let me play
imprison
devil's
anybody.
advocate. I'm a woman who's been beat by her man,
Yeah.
and I say, I take that to social media.
Yeah.
But I want to get a gun to protect myself from this man. But because of your red flag laws, I gotta wait. And in that waiting period, he comes and kills me.
I'm sorry, you're conflating a couple things here.
I'm not conflating anything.
A red flag law is not a waiting period.
I'm not. It is though. It will be. When the red flag law is enacted, it will make you wait, or it'll make you not able to get a gun, or it'll make you wait until you have passed some type of psychological test so you can get a gun.
I'm sorry, but that's just not how they work.
It absolutely is how they work.
Oh shit,
It
Alex.
absolutely is how they
It's
work.
after you make the threat and you own a gun. So if say this hypothetical person.
You just contradicted yourself. You just said that the red flag laws will keep you from owning a gun.
The red flag law is if someone owns a gun and makes threats, you go to the police and say, hey, take this gun from this person. That's how it works.
But what if that person is...
And not in every state. In some states, red flag laws will keep you from getting a gun. Red flag laws are implemented are in front of you even purchasing a gun.
All I want to know is, should black people own guns or not?
Absolutely. We should own guns. We should take every advantage of the Second Amendment that it gives. But we should also not expect the protection that white people get from it.
Alex, do you think black people should own guns?
I think that if you think guns are what make white people safe, you're kind of missing the forest for the trees.
Not what he
Guns
asked.
don't make white people safe.
White skin makes white people safe.
Whiteness makes people safe.
Yeah.
White people safe.
Not what he asked.
Political power makes white people safe.
But do you think we should have guns?
Should black
I
people own
think
guns?
I think that owning a gun does not solve the problem you think it's going to solve.
Do you think white people should own guns?
I think owning guns does not solve the problem white people think it's going to solve.
Gotcha.
Now that I agree with.
White people think owning a gun is going to make them safe, but in this past 20 years that we've seen an explosion in gun ownership, overwhelmingly white gun ownership, we've seen an explosion in suicide. That's really what guns are used for in America. There are twice as many gun suicides as gun homicides.
Okay.
We are scared and we have tons of guns lying around. That's what happens, is we harm ourselves.
So we need more racists to kill themselves. That's what he's saying.
If they're used, exactly.
That's what he's saying.
If they're used for suicides, what is the? I'm not understanding the push for because if a person wants to kill themselves, they don't need a gun to do it.
But if they use a gun to do it, it's going to work. And if they use pills...
If they use a knife to do it, it's going to work. If they hang themselves, it's going to work.
I have
This
to
is,
tell you.
this is a debate that will continue to go on forever and ever. I want to thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Carlos, appreciate you,
Thank you
King.
for having me.
Alex, I appreciate you.